Mustafa Barghouti is the Secretary General of the Palestinian National Initiative. He joins me from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Mustafa, welcome. We've kind of heard about it there, forced evictions. They're considered to be fairly widespread in occupied East Jerusalem. The concern is what Israel is doing is that it's seizing land by forcing Palestinians out, knocking down the buildings, making life generally uncomfortable for them. That's the concern. Do you think that they're credible concerns?
Of course, and that applies not only to Jerusalem, but to all the occupied territories, and especially what they call Area C, which is 62% of the West Bank, where Palestinians are denied any right to build homes, schools, clinics, nurseries, anything. Even projects that were supported and built by European support or other countries' donations, they were all demolished. Israel respects no law here, and it is imposing its own regulation of racism and efforts to annex the city of Jerusalem, but also to Judaize the Palestinian occupied territories. Their goal eventually is ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. In Jerusalem alone, there are 10,000 orders of demolishing of houses. And the number of houses that are demolished every year in Jerusalem exceeds by far the number of permits that are given to Palestinians to build homes. So in reality, what you see here is a process, an act of not only violation of every international law, but also an act of extermination of the Palestinian people.
As well as demolishing houses and forced evictions, what are the other smaller ways, but still, cumulatively effective, Israeli authorities can use to make Palestinian residents uncomfortable in the occupied territories?
There is a very long series of batteries of orders and military orders. What you have to understand is that Israel created a legal, unjust system where it can use any law against Palestinians, starting from Ottoman Turkish law, British mandatory law, Jordanian law, Israeli laws, and more than 1,800 military orders issued by Israel as laws. So practically, there is a strategy, and the strategy is to take over the land of Palestinians, to steal it from them, and then to evict them from it. This is the overall goal. All the legal aspects, all the courts, all the legal system is designed and used specifically to achieve this goal. Add to that arresting people, harassing people, torturing people, killing people. It's a system of oppression and a system of apartheid that is also used against the Palestinian people in every sense of the word. This is the worst place in the world today in terms of persecution of people and violation of international law. Israel, by the way, does not admit that it is occupying the occupied territories, although every other country in the world admits that. And thus, Israel also violates the Geneva Convention, which should be ruling how any occupying power should deal with the occupied people.
Israeli settlers sometimes use violence to take land in the occupied West Bank. That's a fact that's recognised pretty universally now, to the extent that even the United States now have started to take action. They've invoked sanctions on some of those settlers, and they've been followed by the UK, by France. I suppose at this point the question is, are these measures effective? Are they strong enough to deter settlers from doing this in the future?
No, they are not effective because they are nothing. They are mild. They're very little, and the Israelis don't care about them. You are talking here about a very large illegal operation that Israel is conducting since 1967, and that is the settling of its own citizens, the Israeli citizens in occupied territories, which is by itself a violation of the international law. And these settlers have grown to become 750,000 on the occupied Palestinian West Bank. These settlers control 62% of the land of the West Bank, and they organize in gangs, militarized gangs with weapons that the Israeli government is providing to them, and with the protection of the Israeli army. And these gangs conduct terror attacks on the Palestinian population, trying to evict people from their homes. In the last 4 months, 30 Palestinian communities were evicted by terror and Israeli settlers' terror from their homes. And it goes on. The fact that there is settlements, it by itself is a violation. But settlers are terrorists that are now repeating what Israel did in 1948, where they used their gangs to commit 52 massacres against Palestinians and to erase to the ground 520 Palestinian communities, creating the largest ethnic cleansing in modern history. What we see here is a settler colonial project that started in the 20th century and that continues now, trying to annex and Judaize all of the West Bank, all of the occupied territories, and most recently Gaza as well.
Because of the tens of thousands of deaths happening in Gaza, that's where all the attention seems to be. It's what the politicians are talking about. It's what the millions of people around the world are going on the streets protesting about. Are you a bit worried that whatever is agreed, if something is agreed in Gaza, that the occupied West Bank might be left out of that, it might be ignored, and things might continue as they have been?
Well, it's not just the West Bank that is ignored. Gaza is also ignored. I mean, you are talking about the worst crime ever. A combination of 3 war crimes that Israel is committing: genocide, ethnic cleansing, and collective punishment. People are dying from Israeli bombardment, which has exceeded 68,000 tons of explosives thrown on Gaza. That is about 28 kilograms of explosives for every man, woman, or child in Gaza. The result is shocking. You're talking about the killing of 35,000 people and the injury of more than 87,000 people in less than 4 months. That is horrible. And still it continues. And unfortunately, what we see here is absolute and total bias from the Western countries to Israel. If this had happened in any other country in the world, you would see series of collective punitive acts and sanctions on that government, except Israel. Israel is allowed to be impunitive, is allowed to be above the law, above international law. And these little measures that the United States takes from time to time are nothing but a cover of their total bias to Israel, without which Israel would not have been able to conduct all these crimes.
Thank you, Mustafa. My guest, Mustafa Barghouti, Secretary General of the Palestinian National Initiative there.
Thank you.